The disruption. A new beginning. Harold Thompson stood near the entrance of his upscale restaurant, La Maison Elegante, surveying the evening crowd with a practiced eye. The restaurant was more than just a fine dining establishment. It was a testament to Harold's life's work. Nestled in one of the city's most affluent neighborhoods, La Maison Elegante was renowned for its exquisite French cuisine, impeccable service, and an atmosphere that whispered of luxury. The soft glow of crystal chandeliers bathed the room in warm light, while the gentle strains of classical music floated through the air, weaving a sense of elegance and exclusivity. Harold had meticulously crafted this ambience, ensuring that every detail was perfect, from the pristine white tablecloths to the carefully arranged floral centerpieces on each table. As he scanned the room, he took pride in the clientele surrounding him. Influential lawyers, prominent politicians, celebrities, and successful business moguls frequented his restaurant, drawn by the promise of privacy and an unparalleled dining experience. Each evening was a celebration of success, both for him and his esteemed guests. However, beneath this polished exterior lay a man holding on to certain beliefs about who belonged in his establishment and who did not. Though he prided himself on a veneer of professionalism, Harold's judgment was often colored by deep-rooted prejudices. He was careful never to display overt racism, but those who knew him well were aware of his biases. To him, La Maison Elegante was a sanctuary for the elite, a place where he could maintain control over the image he had so carefully cultivated. The arrival. That evening, as Harold stood at the entrance, a couple approached, Marcus and Olivia Daniels. They were impeccably dressed. Marcus wore a tailored black suit that highlighted his tall, well-built frame, while Olivia glided gracefully in a stunning red dress that flowed elegantly with her every move. Their outfits were tasteful and sophisticated, appropriate for the restaurant. However, as they drew nearer, Harold's smile faltered for just a moment, a subtle reaction that would have gone unnoticed by most, but was a clear indication of his internal struggle. Marcus and Olivia were a striking pair. Marcus's skin was the color of rich mahogany, his short cropped hair neatly groomed. Olivia, with her dark curls framing her face beautifully, possessed an aura of warmth and intelligence. They exuded confidence, but to Harold, their race overshadowed everything else. A question formed in his mind. Did they truly belong here? When they reached the entrance, Harold forced a smile, his tone smooth yet betraying a hint of unease. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation with us tonight?" "Yes, we do," Marcus replied, returning the smile. "It's under the name Daniels." Harold nodded, but internally he was already questioning their presence. He glanced at his maitre d', standing a few steps behind him, and gave a barely perceptible nod. The maitre d' checked the reservation list and looked back at Harold with an expression confirming the reservation was indeed legitimate. "Ah yes, Mr. Daniels," Harold said, his voice carefully composed. "Right this way, please." As he led the couple through the restaurant, he couldn't help but notice the glances from some of the other patrons. Harold knew exactly what they were thinking. What were Marcus and Olivia doing here? The table. He guided them to a table near the back, close to the kitchen doors and away from the center of the dining room. An intentional choice that conveyed a message. This was a table Harold reserved for guests he deemed less desirable, a subtle way of asserting his authority and control over the evening. "Here we are," Harold said, gesturing for them to sit. "I hope you enjoy your evening with us." Marcus and Olivia exchanged a quick glance but said nothing. They took their seats, Marcus pulling out a chair for Olivia before sitting down himself. As Harold lingered for a moment, he studied them with a critical eye, noting their composed demeanor and the way they held themselves with dignity and grace. But instead of appreciating their elegance, Harold saw only what he wanted to see. Two people who, in his mind, didn't belong in his restaurant. "Thank you," Olivia said, her voice soft but firm. "We're looking forward to it." Harold nodded curtly and walked away, but his mind was still occupied with thoughts of the couple. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease their presence stirred within him. It wasn't just that they were black. It was that they carried themselves with a confidence that challenged his preconceived notions. He was used to people being intimidated by the exclusivity of his restaurant, but Marcus and Olivia seemed entirely comfortable, as if they belonged there just as much as anyone else. The evening unfolds. Back at the entrance, Harold pulled the maitre d' aside and whispered, "Keep an eye on them. Make sure everything is handled appropriately." The maitre d' nodded, understanding the unspoken directive. Harold returned to his post, his thoughts still lingering on Marcus and Olivia. The evening unfolded, and the restaurant buzzed with laughter and conversation. Diners chatted quietly, sipping fine wines and savoring delicate dishes prepared with utmost care. The clink of silverware against porcelain mixed with the gentle murmur of conversation, creating an ambience of refined tranquility. Yet for Harold, everything felt just slightly off. He continued to steal glances in Marcus and Olivia's direction, waiting for a sign that would justify his discomfort. But they offered nothing. Just a couple enjoying their anniversary dinner, treating the staff with respect and behaving impeccably. As the minutes ticked by, Harold felt an unsettling mix of irritation and fascination. Their very presence seemed to challenge everything he believed about who should and shouldn't be in his restaurant. He watched as they chatted and laughed together, a picture of joy and contentment that only fueled his resentment. Despite their calm demeanor, Marcus and Olivia were keenly aware of the scrutiny directed at them. They noticed the way the waitstaff seemed hesitant to approach their table, and how other diners occasionally glanced their way before quickly looking away. Each movement was under a microscope, and they could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on them. Refusing to yield. Yet, instead of reacting, they remained composed. Marcus held Olivia's hand across the table, a gesture of solidarity. They exchanged smiles, communicating a shared understanding of the situation without uttering a word. They had faced subtle racism before and knew how to navigate it, refusing to let it ruin their evening. Tonight was supposed to be about celebrating their love and the life they had built together. "Can you believe we've been married for 10 years? Olivia said, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "It feels like just yesterday we were at that little cafe, dreaming about our future," Marcus replied, squeezing her hand gently. "Tonight is special. Let's make the most of it." They both knew the unspoken tensions that surrounded them, but chose to rise above it. Their love and commitment to one another were the true highlights of the evening, and they would not let Harold's narrow-mindedness take that away from them. A brewing storm. Back in the kitchen, Harold felt the irritation simmering just below the surface. He prided himself on maintaining a veneer of professionalism, yet the couple's mere presence continued to eat away at him. As the evening progressed, he wrestled with conflicting thoughts. On one hand, he wanted to uphold the restaurant's reputation. On the other, he felt angered that they dared to disrupt the exclusive atmosphere he had worked so hard to create. The tension in the restaurant was palpable, the air thick with unspoken judgments. As the night wore on, Harold felt the need to assert his control, to remind everyone that La Maison Elegante was his domain. But the couple's calmness infuriated him. He was waiting for them to make a mistake, to confirm the biases he had held for so long. Finally, unable to contain his discontent any longer, he stepped away from his post, venturing into the dining area once more. He walked towards Marcus and Olivia's table, determined to confront them. "Excuse me," he said, his voice cool and measured. "May I ask how everything is this evening?" The challenge. Marcus looked up, meeting Harold's gaze with calm assurance. "It's wonderful, thank you. The ambience is lovely, and we're excited to enjoy our meal." "Glad to hear that," Harold replied, though his tone lacked sincerity. He wanted to say more, to challenge them in some way, but he found himself at a loss. Instead, he simply nodded and turned to leave, the unease within him festering. As he walked away, Harold's mind raced. The couple had unwittingly challenged his beliefs, forcing him to confront the prejudices he had long held. He had spent a lifetime curating an image, yet here they were, unbothered and unapologetic in their existence. This was a turning point for Harold. Little did he know, the evening would not only change Marcus and Olivia's lives, but his as well. The revelation, a night to remember. As the evening continued, Marcus and Olivia settled into the rhythm of the restaurant. The initial tension of their arrival began to dissipate, replaced by the warmth of shared memories and future dreams. They had planned this night for weeks, an opportunity to celebrate not just their love, but the journey they had taken together over the last decade. "I can't believe it's been 10 years since that day," Olivia reminisced, her eyes sparkling with nostalgia. "Remember how nervous you were to ask me out?" Marcus chuckled, the sound rich and deep. "I was terrified, but I knew from the moment we met that you were someone special. You were the only one in that crowded room who made me feel at ease." Olivia smiled, her heart swelling with affection. "You always had a way of making me feel cherished, Marcus. I knew right then that I wanted to build a life with you." As they continued to share stories from their past, the ambience of La Maison Elegante began to fade into the background. Their laughter mingled with the sounds of clinking glasses and soft music, creating an intimate bubble around them, shielded from the scrutiny that lingered in the corners of the room. A moment of discomfort. However, Harold was not finished with his observations. Each laugh from the couple felt like a challenge to him, a reminder of his discomfort and prejudice. He was both captivated and repulsed by their confidence, and it was becoming increasingly difficult for him to ignore them. As the main courses were served, Harold couldn't help but notice the way other diners glanced at Marcus and Olivia, some with raised eyebrows, others with whispered comments. It was a scene he had witnessed before, a couple of color in a space dominated by the elite. He hated that their presence elicited such reactions, as it threatened the very image he had worked so hard to cultivate. "Did you see how they were seated?" a patron at a nearby table remarked to her companion, her voice laced with disdain. "I can't believe they're even here." Harold's blood boiled at the remark, and for a fleeting moment he felt a sense of camaraderie with the patron. But he quickly scolded himself for such thoughts. No, he was better than that. He prided himself on being above such petty judgments. Yet the discomfort gnawed at him. Unexpected guests. The evening pressed on, and just as Harold felt the tension reach its peak, the restaurant door swung open. A group of 4 well-dressed individuals entered, immediately drawing the attention of the entire dining room. They were regulars at La Maison Elegante, high-profile clients who commanded respect. As they walked in, laughter erupted from their table, brightening the atmosphere instantly. Harold's demeanor shifted. He rushed to greet them, his smile genuine as he welcomed his esteemed guests. "Welcome back. It's wonderful to see you all again. How have you been?" The group exchanged pleasantries with Harold, their presence a stark contrast to the couple seated at the back. As they settled into their table, Harold could feel the energy in the room change, and for a moment, he basked in the comfort of familiarity. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of Marcus and Olivia. They had fallen quiet, watching the scene unfold with quiet dignity. It struck Harold then. They were not just a couple. They were a representation of everything he had fought against, and yet they were here, deserving to be in this space as much as anyone else. A difficult choice. As the night progressed, Harold felt an internal struggle intensify. He could either continue to uphold his preconceived notions or confront the reality of his actions. Deep down, he knew that this dinner was not just about Marcus and Olivia. It was about him, his identity, and the uncomfortable truths he had avoided for so long. Later, as he returned to check on the couple, he found himself standing at their table once more. This time, the tension felt different. Marcus and Olivia looked up at him, their expressions calm, but their eyes held a depth he could not ignore. "Is everything to your liking?" he asked, forcing a smile, his voice barely concealing the internal turmoil brewing within him. "It's wonderful," Marcus replied, his tone warm yet measured. "We're enjoying our meal and the ambience." Harold hesitated for a moment, searching for words that would help him understand their presence better. "I noticed you seemed a bit unsettled when you arrived." Olivia raised an eyebrow, her demeanor poised but inquisitive. "Unsettled. We sensed a bit of tension, yes. But we're determined to enjoy our night regardless." That simple statement echoed in Harold's mind. Determined to enjoy our night regardless. He was struck by the strength of their words. They had every right to be there, and they refused to let his discomfort dictate their experience. An unexpected turn. As the conversation unfolded, Harold found himself captivated. He learned about Marcus and Olivia's lives, how they had built their careers from the ground up, their passion for community service, and their dreams for the future. It was a refreshing perspective, one he had long buried under layers of prejudice. "Olivia runs a nonprofit that supports underprivileged youth," Marcus shared, pride swelling in his voice. "We believe everyone deserves a chance, no matter their background." Harold felt a pang of guilt wash over him. Here were two people working tirelessly to uplift their community, and he had judged them based solely on their appearance. The irony was not lost on him. "So you're saying that you fight for people to have opportunities?" Harold asked, an edge of defensiveness creeping into his tone. "Exactly," Olivia said, her voice steady. "We want to create pathways for others who might not have the same privileges we do. Everyone should have a seat at the table, literally and figuratively." The challenge within. As he listened, Harold realized that their passion and determination were shining a light on his own shortcomings. He was a man who had built walls around his restaurant, around his heart, to protect a fragile image. But what good was that image if it was built on discrimination? With every word they spoke, Marcus and Olivia were dismantling the barriers he had erected. It was as if they were challenging him to rethink everything he had believed about himself and his restaurant. He felt a deep sense of introspection, a burgeoning realization that he needed to confront his biases. "I appreciate what you're doing," Harold finally said, his voice low. "I really do. It's hard for someone like me to see things differently after so many years." "Change is difficult for everyone," Marcus replied, his tone sympathetic. "But it's never too late to open your mind and heart to new possibilities." The moment of truth. Just then, a commotion erupted at the entrance of the restaurant. Harold's attention was diverted as a group of people entered, laughing and chatting loudly. They were rowdy, their presence entirely at odds with the refined atmosphere of La Maison Elegante. Harold felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This was not what he wanted for his restaurant. However, as he watched the group, he realized that they were diverse. Different races, backgrounds, and styles. They didn't fit the mold of his ideal clientele, yet they entered with an air of confidence, much like Marcus and Olivia had. At that moment, a shift occurred within Harold. He recognized that he had been the one to create an unwelcoming environment, one that pushed away anyone who didn't fit his narrow definition of acceptable. He turned back to Marcus and Olivia, who were quietly observing the scene unfold. "What do you think?" he asked, gesturing to the new arrivals. "I think they're here to celebrate," Olivia said, her voice calm. "Everyone deserves a place to enjoy life, just as you've built this restaurant for those who can afford it." Harold felt the weight of her words sink in. They were right. He had created a sanctuary for the elite while ignoring the beauty of diversity. A defining choice. As the evening progressed, Harold grappled with the realization that he could no longer uphold the old traditions of exclusivity that had governed his restaurant for so long. Something inside him stirred, urging him to take a stand. He didn't want to be the man who would kick out anyone based on their race, background, or appearance. In that moment, he made a decision. He would change the way he ran La Maison Elegante. This place would embrace everyone willing to share a meal, regardless of who they were or where they came from. With newfound resolve, Harold straightened his posture and smiled at Marcus and Olivia. "Thank you for reminding me of what really matters," he said sincerely. "It's not about the image, it's about the people, and the stories they bring with them. The final encounter. Just then, the noisy group at the entrance caught Harold's attention again. Instead of feeling irritation or disdain, he felt a sense of warmth. He could see joy radiating from their laughter, and he wanted that for his restaurant. He turned to Marcus and Olivia. "Would you like to join me for a toast?" he asked, gesturing toward the bar where he could see an assortment of wines on display. Surprise flickered across their faces, but then Olivia nodded, a smile spreading across her lips. "We'd love that." As they walked toward the bar, Harold felt a weight lift off his shoulders. This was not just about a single couple, it was about changing the very essence of his establishment. The walls he had built around his restaurant began to crumble, and in their place rose an opportunity for growth, understanding, and community. He poured 3 glasses of wine and raised his glass toward them. "To new beginnings," he declared, his voice steady and filled with purpose. "To new beginnings," Marcus and Olivia echoed, their glasses clinking against Harold's. And as they stood together in that moment, they symbolized the possibility of change, one that Harold had desperately needed to embrace. The transformation, unforeseen changes. As the glasses clinked and the wine flowed, Harold felt an exhilarating rush of clarity. It was as if he had stepped into a new realm, one where judgments based on race or background no longer held power over him. The laughter and conversations around him, including the vibrant energy from the new arrivals, began to feel infectious, infusing La Maison Elegante with an atmosphere that was more alive than he had ever seen it. Marcus and Olivia shared glances, their surprise slowly transforming into a smile of understanding. They could sense the shift within Harold, a man who had once embodied the very prejudices they had fought against, but was now beginning to see the world through a broader lens. "Tell me more about your nonprofit," Harold said, eager to learn. He took a sip of his wine, the rich flavors awakening something deep within him. "It's called Pathways to Success," Olivia explained, her eyes brightening. "We provide mentorship and resources to young people from underprivileged backgrounds, helping them navigate education and career opportunities. We believe that everyone deserves a fair shot, regardless of their circumstances." "That's incredible," Harold replied, genuinely impressed. "You're not just making a difference in their lives. You're reshaping the future." Marcus nodded, pride evident in his expression. "We work with local schools and community organizations to create programs that are accessible and impactful. We've seen lives change because of it." Breaking down walls, Harold found himself leaning in closer, engrossed in their stories. The couple spoke with passion, their words laced with hope and determination. He realized that he had spent so many years focusing on the surface, on the image of exclusivity, when he could have been fostering an environment that celebrated diversity and unity. As they conversed, Harold felt a deep yearning to be part of that change, to contribute in some meaningful way. "How can I help?" he asked, surprising even himself with the question. Olivia smiled, her warmth contagious. "Just being open to the idea of inclusivity is a great start. But if you really want to help, consider hosting events that support local nonprofits or community initiatives. Use your platform to give back." Harold nodded, the gears in his mind turning. Hosting community events, welcoming diverse groups to his restaurant. This was a way to not only redefine La Maison Elegante, but also to reclaim his identity as a restaurateur who cared about more than just profits and prestige. A surprising invitation. Just then, the raucous group from earlier made their way to the bar, clearly ready to celebrate. Their laughter rang out, drawing the attention of diners and staff alike. Harold glanced at them, feeling a sense of kinship with the newcomers. They weren't just guests. They represented a tapestry of life that he had previously ignored. "Why don't we invite them to join us?" he suggested, surprising Marcus and Olivia once again. "You want to invite them over?" Marcus asked, a mix of curiosity and caution in his voice. "Absolutely," Harold replied, his tone confident. "Tonight is about breaking down barriers. Why shouldn't we celebrate together?" With that, Harold strode over to the group, a sense of determination fueling his steps. "Hello, everyone," he called out, his voice cutting through the noise. "I'd like to invite you to join us for a toast. We're celebrating a special occasion tonight." The group paused, surprise evident on their faces. Then one of them, a boisterous man with curly hair, stepped forward. "What's the occasion?" "This couple here," Harold gestured toward Marcus and Olivia, "is celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary. We thought it would be fitting to share the joy." An unexpected response. The group exchanged excited glances, their previous raucousness morphing into genuine interest. 10 years. That's amazing," the man exclaimed. "Let's raise a glass to love and commitment." As Harold returned to Marcus and Olivia, he felt a thrill of anticipation coursing through him. The moment felt electric, and he watched as the group gathered around, offering their best wishes and sharing in the celebration. "Cheers," they all shouted, their voices harmonizing in a chorus of joy. Glasses were raised high, and laughter filled the air, creating a vibrant tapestry of connection. Olivia leaned in closer to Marcus, her eyes sparkling. "This is incredible. I never expected this to happen tonight." "It's a beautiful moment," Marcus replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "We're truly blessed." The heart of the matter. As the celebration continued, Harold found himself at the center of a lively conversation with the newcomers. They were from various backgrounds: artists, entrepreneurs, and activists, each with stories that added depth to the evening. "Tell us about La Maison Elegante," one woman said, her enthusiasm infectious. "What inspired you to create such a beautiful restaurant?" Harold paused for a moment, the question prompting him to reflect deeply. "When I started this place, I wanted to create an atmosphere of luxury and exclusivity," he admitted. "But tonight has shown me that there's so much more to life than that." "Exactly," another guest chimed in. "It's about creating connections, building community. You have the power to use this space for something greater." Harold felt a wave of realization wash over him. He had been so focused on maintaining an image that he had lost sight of the true purpose of his restaurant. It wasn't just a venue for the wealthy. It was a gathering place for people from all walks of life, each with their own story to share. A shift in perspective. As the evening unfolded, Harold engaged in conversations that challenged his worldview. He found himself laughing and sharing ideas, his heart open to the possibilities that lay ahead. For the first time, he envisioned La Maison Elegante as a space that could celebrate diversity and foster connections among patrons. "Why not host a series of themed nights?" he suggested, excitement bubbling within him. Each event could highlight different cultures, cuisines, music, art. We could partner with local organizations to create a true community experience. Marcus and Olivia exchanged glances, both clearly impressed by Harold's newfound enthusiasm. "That's a fantastic idea," Olivia exclaimed. "You could really make an impact in the community that way." Harold felt a surge of pride, realizing that he had the ability to create change. "And it's not just about the restaurant. I want to contribute to the greater good, to create opportunities for those who might not have them otherwise." A turning point. As the evening drew to a close, the celebration reached a crescendo of joy. The laughter, stories, and toasts blended into a symphony of connection and unity. Harold felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had taken the first steps toward transformation, not just for himself, but for his restaurant and the community it served. He turned to Marcus and Olivia, gratitude etched across his face. "Thank you for being a catalyst for this change. I didn't realize how much I needed this until tonight." "It's our pleasure," Marcus replied, sincerity evident in his tone. "You have the power to create something beautiful here, Harold. Don't waste it." As they exchanged goodbyes with the group, Harold felt a sense of hope rising within him. The journey ahead would not be without its challenges, but he was ready to embrace the unknown. He had spent too long confined by his own prejudices, and now he was eager to open the doors to inclusivity and acceptance. Embracing the future, With a renewed spirit, Harold stepped outside with Marcus and Olivia, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a refreshing embrace. He looked up at the starry sky, a symbol of infinite possibilities. "Let's keep in touch," Olivia said, her smile brightening the night. "We'd love to help you with those themed events." "Absolutely," Harold agreed, his heart racing with excitement at the prospect. "I want to make La Maison Elegante a place where everyone feels welcome, where we celebrate the richness of diversity." As they parted ways, Harold felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over him. He was ready to embark on a new journey, one that would redefine not just his restaurant, but also the way he viewed the world. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a much larger transformation, one that would challenge him to confront the biases he had long buried and inspire those around him to do the same. The new chapter, embracing the vision. In the days following that transformative evening, Harold Thompson found himself invigorated with purpose. The walls he had built around La Maison Elegante and his own heart began to crumble as he contemplated the ideas he had shared with Marcus and Olivia. He was ready to embrace a new vision, one where inclusivity and community took precedence over exclusivity. With renewed energy, he convened a meeting with his staff, determined to share his vision for the restaurant's future. As they gathered in the private dining area, he sensed a mix of curiosity and skepticism among his employees. After all, he had long upheld a standard that favored a certain clientele. "Thank you all for being here," Harold began, his voice steady but filled with passion. "I want to talk about something important. La Maison Elegante has always been a place of elegance and fine dining, but I believe it can be so much more." He watched as his staff leaned in, intrigued. "I've come to realize that we have the opportunity to create a space that welcomes everyone, regardless of their background or status, a place where diversity is celebrated and where we can use our resources to uplift the community." The initial response. As Harold spoke, he saw a mixture of reactions among his staff. Some nodded in agreement, while others appeared hesitant, unsure of how to adapt to this new direction. "Are you saying we should change our clientele?" asked Lisa, one of the head waitresses, her brow furrowed in concern. "I'm not suggesting we abandon our current patrons," Harold clarified. "But we can invite a broader audience. We can host themed events that celebrate different cultures, highlight local artists, and partner with organizations that share our mission of inclusivity. We want to create a community space." There were murmurs of uncertainty, but Harold pressed on. "Imagine a night dedicated to local chefs from diverse backgrounds, showcasing their cuisines, or an art night featuring work from up-and-coming artists in our community. This could be our chance to foster connections and make a real impact." Building support. Slowly, the energy in the room began to shift. A few of the staff members exchanged excited glances, and Lisa's expression softened. "That sounds like an incredible idea, Harold. It could really bring something fresh to the restaurant." "Exactly," Harold responded, feeling the momentum building. "And it will also give our patrons a chance to learn about different cultures and perspectives. I want La Maison Elegante to be more than just a restaurant. I want it to be a hub for community engagement and dialogue." As discussions continued, the staff began brainstorming ideas for events, each more enthusiastic than the last. Ideas flowed: cooking classes, wine tastings, community art displays, and the collective energy was palpable. It felt like a spark igniting a flame. Planning the first event. With a shared vision emerging, Harold organized a planning meeting with Marcus and Olivia to discuss the first event. He wanted their input, knowing they would provide valuable insights and connections to the community. "Thank you for meeting with me," he said as they gathered at a local coffee shop, the atmosphere buzzing with energy. "I'm excited to share my ideas and hear your thoughts." Marcus leaned back, a broad smile on his face. "We're thrilled to be part of this, Harold. It's refreshing to see someone in your position willing to make such a significant change." Olivia nodded in agreement. "Your restaurant can truly become a beacon of inclusivity, but it will take work and commitment from all of us. Absolutely, Harold replied, his heart racing with anticipation. I was thinking we could kick off with a Taste of the World night, where we invite chefs from different backgrounds to showcase their cuisines. It could be a celebration of culture and community. That's a fantastic idea, Olivia exclaimed. You could partner with local nonprofits to promote the event, and we can help spread the word through our networks. Overcoming challenges. As they discussed the logistics, Harold felt a sense of camaraderie grow between them. It was inspiring to see how invested Marcus and Olivia were in this vision, but he knew challenges would arise. The transition from an exclusive fine dining restaurant to a community-centered space would require careful planning and execution. What if some of our regular patrons resist this change? Harold asked, his brow furrowing. Not everyone will be on board with our new direction. Change can be difficult, Marcus acknowledged. But if you communicate your vision clearly and emphasize the benefits of inclusivity, most patrons will appreciate it. Some might surprise you. That's true, Olivia added. And you can always hold private events for loyal patrons, giving them a taste of what's to come while still introducing the new concept. Feeling encouraged, Harold took notes as they discussed the necessary steps. They outlined the marketing strategy, the logistics of inviting chefs, and even potential collaborations with local artists for decoration. Every idea seemed to bring them closer to a shared goal. Promotion and preparation with their plan in place, the trio got to work. Harold and his staff reached out to local chefs, inviting them to participate in the Taste of the World event. To his surprise, many were eager to join, thrilled at the opportunity to showcase their culinary talents and share their culture with a broader audience. As the event date approached, Harold found himself both excited and nervous. He organized promotional materials and reached out to local media outlets, eager to generate buzz. He envisioned a night filled with laughter, delicious food, and a community coming together. Days before the event, Harold could hardly contain his excitement. He spent hours fine-tuning the menu and coordinating with the chefs, ensuring every detail was perfect. The restaurant was transformed, with colorful decorations reflecting the various cultures represented by the chefs. The night of the event. Finally, the evening arrived. The air was electric with anticipation as patrons began to filter in, drawn by the promise of a culinary adventure. Harold stood near the entrance, greeting guests with a warm smile, his heart racing at the sight of the diverse crowd filling the restaurant. As the event kicked off, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Different stations were set up around the restaurant, each featuring a unique cuisine from various corners of the world. Lively music played in the background, and the air was filled with enticing aromas that beckoned guests to explore. Welcome, everyone, Harold announced, taking the microphone. Tonight, we celebrate the beauty of diversity through food and culture. Thank you for joining us in this journey to build a more inclusive community at La Maison Elegante. A taste of togetherness. The guests erupted into applause, and the night unfolded beautifully. People mingled, tasted dishes they had never tried before, and engaged in conversations that transcended their differences. Harold watched as Marcus and Olivia moved through the crowd, connecting with guests and sharing their own stories, their passion for community evident in every interaction. For the first time, Harold felt a sense of belonging in his own restaurant. He observed how the guests embraced each other's cultures, exchanging stories and laughter over shared meals. It was a celebration of humanity, and he felt proud to be a part of it. As the evening progressed, he noticed some of his regular patrons from the old days in attendance. They approached him, initial skepticism fading into genuine curiosity. "This is incredible, Harold," one of them remarked, a hint of surprise in their voice. "I didn't expect such a vibrant atmosphere." Harold beamed, feeling a swell of satisfaction. "It's about embracing change and celebrating diversity. I'm so glad you're here to experience it." A moment of reflection. Later in the evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned a beautiful shade of orange. Harold found a moment to step outside. He took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill his lungs. The night had surpassed his expectations, but more importantly, it had marked a turning point in his life. He felt a presence beside him, and turned to find Marcus and Olivia standing there, their expressions bright with joy. "You did it, Harold. This is amazing," Olivia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with pride. "It's just the beginning," he replied, a smile stretching across his face. "I can feel the shift already, and it's only going to grow from here." Marcus nodded, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "You've taken the first step toward changing the narrative, and it's inspiring to see how your vision is coming to life." As they stood together, Harold felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had once viewed Marcus and Olivia as outsiders, but now they were his partners in a mission that transcended race and background. They were part of something much larger than any of them had anticipated, a commitment to change. As the event began to wind down, Harold knew that he had a responsibility to ensure that the changes at La Maison Elegante were lasting. He was committed to not just hosting one event, but creating a series of gatherings that would highlight the richness of diversity and foster connections among community members. In the weeks that followed, he collaborated closely with Marcus and Olivia to develop a calendar of events, each designed to engage different cultures and celebrate the stories behind the food. The response from the community was overwhelmingly positive, and the restaurant quickly became a hub of activity. Harold found himself rejuvenated, no longer confined by his own prejudices. He began to see each guest as an opportunity for connection, every interaction a chance to learn and grow. He forged new relationships, and La Maison Elegante transformed into a space where everyone felt welcome. The ripple effect. A growing community. In the months following the successful Taste of the World event, La Maison Elegante blossomed into a vibrant hub of culture and community. Each new themed night brought fresh excitement, with guests eagerly returning to experience the diverse offerings and connect with one another. Harold felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. No longer was he just a restaurateur concerned with image and reputation. He had become a catalyst for change. His vision had transformed not only the restaurant, but also the lives of those who walked through its doors. Marcus and Olivia remained integral to this journey, actively promoting upcoming events through their networks. They introduced Harold to local organizations, schools, and artists, creating partnerships that enriched the restaurant's offerings. Together, they organized cooking classes for young people and workshops for aspiring chefs from underrepresented communities, igniting a passion for culinary arts in the next generation. A chance encounter. One evening, as patrons filled the restaurant for an upcoming cultural fusion night, Harold found himself chatting with a group of young chefs. They were excited to showcase their dishes, sharing stories about their heritage and culinary traditions. Their enthusiasm reminded him of the power of food to connect people and create a sense of belonging. As he listened, he noticed a couple sitting at a corner table, their expressions contemplative. They appeared to be new guests, likely drawn in by the buzz surrounding La Maison Elegante. Intrigued, Harold approached them. "Good evening. How are you enjoying your meal?" he asked, genuine curiosity evident in his voice. "It's fantastic," the woman replied, her eyes lighting up. "We've heard so much about this place and the new events. We wanted to see what all the excitement was about." Harold smiled, proud of the community he had built. "I'm glad you're here. Tonight is all about celebrating different cultures through food. We have some incredible chefs sharing their family recipes." As they chatted, Harold learned that the couple had recently moved to the area and were seeking a sense of community. "We've been looking for a place where we can connect with others and explore different cultures," the man said. "This seems like the perfect spot." The impact of change. That interaction resonated deeply with Harold. He realized that the changes he had implemented at La Maison Elegante were not just about food. They were about creating a welcoming environment for anyone seeking connection and belonging. It was a reflection of his own journey, a journey of overcoming prejudice and embracing diversity. In the weeks that followed, Harold organized a community meeting at the restaurant, inviting locals to discuss their ideas for future events and initiatives. He wanted to ensure that La Maison Elegante remained a space where everyone felt heard and valued. The meeting attracted a diverse group: artists, educators, families, and young professionals, all eager to contribute their voices to the evolving narrative. As they shared their ideas, Harold felt a profound sense of gratitude. This was not just his restaurant anymore. It was a shared vision, a collaborative effort to build a community. New challenges, however. Change does not come without its challenges. As word spread about La Maison Elegante's new direction, not everyone embraced the transformation. Some of Harold's longtime patrons expressed dissatisfaction with the shift, feeling that the restaurant was losing its refined atmosphere. One evening, an older gentleman approached Harold, a frown creasing his brow. "I've been coming here for years, Harold. This was a place of sophistication, and now it feels different. I don't see why we need to accommodate everyone." Harold took a deep breath, his heart racing. This was the moment he had anticipated, but had hoped would never come. "I understand your concerns," he replied, maintaining a calm demeanor. "But my goal is to celebrate diversity and create a sense of community. Inclusivity doesn't diminish the elegance of this place. It enhances it." The gentleman shook his head, his voice tinged with disappointment. "I'm afraid I don't see it that way." Standing firm, as the man walked away, Harold felt a mix of frustration and resolve. He had been prepared for backlash, yet it stung nonetheless. He knew he couldn't please everyone, but he also believed in the importance of fostering an environment where all felt welcome. The following weeks saw more patrons voicing their opinions, and it weighed heavily on Harold. Each complaint felt like a personal attack on the vision he had worked so hard to create. Doubt began to creep in, and he questioned whether he was making the right decision. In moments of uncertainty, he turned to Marcus and Olivia for support. "I'm struggling with the backlash," he admitted during one of their meetings. "I want to stay true to this vision, but it's hard when some people are so vocal about their dissatisfaction." Olivia placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Change is always met with resistance, especially when it challenges the status quo. But remember why you started this journey. You're creating something meaningful for the community." Marcus nodded, his expression serious. "You have to trust the process. It's not easy, but the impact you're making is worth it. Focus on the positive stories, the connections you're helping to build. A catalyst for change." Drawing strength from their encouragement, Harold made a conscious decision to refocus his energy on the positives. He began highlighting success stories from the events, people who had connected over a shared love of food, young chefs gaining confidence in their skills, and community members forming friendships across cultural lines. As he shared these stories through social media and local newsletters, he noticed a shift in tone. Many patrons began to celebrate the changes, expressing gratitude for the welcoming atmosphere and the opportunities being created. The negativity slowly began to diminish as more people joined in the celebration of community and culture. A meaningful collaboration. One evening, during a global flavors night, Harold witnessed the power of community firsthand. Guests mingled, sharing stories and laughter, while chefs showcased their culinary skills. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, and the restaurant felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. Amidst the celebration, a familiar face caught his attention. It was a local news reporter, intrigued by the buzz surrounding La Maison Elegante. "I've heard amazing things about what you're doing here," she said, her camera capturing the vibrancy of the evening. "Can I talk to you about it?" Harold eagerly agreed, sharing the story of his transformation and the impact it had on the community. He spoke passionately about the importance of inclusivity and the relationships being built within the restaurant. After the interview, The reporter promised to highlight La Maison Elegante in an upcoming feature about community-driven restaurants. "You're doing something remarkable," she said. "I can't wait to share your story." The article's impact. When the article was published, it created a ripple effect throughout the community. People who had never set foot in La Maison Elegante were drawn in by the story of transformation and inclusivity. They wanted to experience the vibrant atmosphere and connect with others. As foot traffic increased, Harold felt a renewed sense of hope. The restaurant was thriving, not just financially, but as a space that brought people together. He reveled in the warmth of the connections being forged around him, each guest a testament to the power of food and culture. However, it also prompted a re-examination of his values. With increased visibility came a responsibility to ensure that La Maison Elegante continued to foster an environment of respect and acceptance. He knew that maintaining this atmosphere required ongoing effort and vigilance, a foundation for the future. Determined to solidify this newfound commitment, Harold organized a series of workshops focused on cultural competency and inclusivity for his staff. He believed that if they understood the importance of these values, they could better serve the diverse clientele. The workshops were led by community leaders and experts who provided insights on how to create a welcoming atmosphere for everyone. The staff engaged in discussions, learning to appreciate the richness of different cultures and the significance of their roles in shaping the restaurant experience. After the workshops, the atmosphere in La Maison Elegante shifted yet again. The staff became more attentive and aware of their interactions with guests, striving to create meaningful connections. Harold felt proud of their growth, knowing that they were all contributing to something larger than themselves. A moment of reflection. One evening, as Harold stood in the kitchen, watching the chefs prepare for a bustling dinner service, he took a moment to reflect on how far he had come. The restaurant that had once been a fortress of exclusivity was now a beacon of community, connection, and celebration. Just then, Marcus and Olivia arrived, their smiles wide as they greeted him. "We wanted to check in and see how everything is going," Marcus said, his enthusiasm infectious. "It's going incredibly well," Harold replied, beaming with pride. "We've had a steady flow of new guests, and the staff is really embracing the changes." Olivia nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've been hearing such positive feedback from the community. People are eager to be part of what you're building here." Feeling a surge of gratitude, Harold raised a glass to toast. To community, change, and the power of connection. To community, Marcus and Olivia echoed, their voices filled with warmth. Looking ahead. As the evening unfolded, Harold felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment wash over him. He had transformed not just his restaurant, but also his own outlook on life. Through his journey, he had learned that true elegance lay not in exclusivity, but in embracing diversity and creating a sense of belonging. With every passing day, La Maison Elegante continued to grow, and Harold was committed to ensuring it remained a place where everyone could gather, share their stories, and celebrate the richness of life. Little did he know that this was just the beginning. As the restaurant gained recognition, it would soon become a model for other establishments, a testament to the power of embracing change and fostering community, a legacy of change. The journey continues. As La Maison Elegante continued to thrive, Harold's reputation as a visionary restaurateur grew beyond the walls of his establishment. Articles praising the restaurant's commitment to inclusivity and community poured in, and people from neighboring towns began to flock to experience the vibrant atmosphere for themselves. However, with this newfound recognition came a deeper sense of responsibility. Harold knew that the changes he had implemented must be sustainable and that the restaurant should be a model for others seeking to create inclusive spaces. He reflected on how far he had come, from a man entrenched in prejudice to one who actively sought to embrace diversity. In the spirit of this commitment, Harold began to reach out to other local businesses, inviting them to collaborate on community initiatives. He envisioned a network of establishments that could work together to uplift and support one another while creating a larger impact in the community. Building partnerships. One afternoon, he organized a meeting with local business owners at La Maison Elegante. As they gathered in the private dining room, excitement buzzed in the air. Harold presented his vision for a collaborative effort to host monthly community events, each showcasing different local businesses and cultures. By working together, we can create something powerful, Harold explained. Imagine a monthly festival where each of us brings a piece of our culture to the table: food, music, art. We can support one another while enriching the community. The room erupted in applause. Many business owners were eager to contribute, seeing this as an opportunity to connect with a broader audience while supporting local initiatives. As the meeting progressed, they brainstormed ideas for the first festival, envisioning a celebration that would highlight the unique offerings of each business while uniting the community. A community festival. After weeks of planning, the inaugural Community Festival Day finally arrived. Harold, along with the other business owners, transformed the street outside La Maison Elegante into a lively celebration. Colorful banners adorned the area, and booths were set up to showcase local artists, musicians, and food vendors. The air was filled with the tantalizing scents of various cuisines, enticing passersby to join in the festivities. Harold felt a surge of pride as he walked through the crowd. Families gathered, children laughed, and friendships formed as people engaged in the shared experience. He noticed how diverse the crowd had become, people from all walks of life, united by a common goal of celebrating their community. As the day progressed, Harold took a moment to step back and reflect. He watched Marcus and Olivia interacting with guests, their smiles infectious. They had become integral to this movement, helping to connect the community in ways he had never anticipated. A moment of connection. Later that afternoon, a young girl approached Harold's booth, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What's your favorite food?" she asked innocently, her voice filled with excitement. Harold smiled down at her, appreciating her enthusiasm. "I love all kinds of food, but I think my favorite is homemade gumbo. It reminds me of family gatherings when I was a kid." The girl's face lit up. "I want to learn how to cook that. Can you teach me?" Harold chuckled, his heart warming at her eagerness. "Absolutely. We can arrange a cooking class right here at the restaurant. You can invite your friends, and we'll have a great time." Her eyes sparkled with joy as she ran off to tell her parents, and Harold couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. Moments like these highlighted the restaurant's impact beyond just serving food. It was about fostering connections and inspiring the next generation. An unexpected visitor. As the festival continued, Harold spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was the older gentleman who had voiced his concerns about the changes in the restaurant months earlier. He stood at a booth featuring local artisans, his expression thoughtful as he examined the crafts. Feeling a sense of determination, Harold approached him. "Good to see you again," he said warmly. "What do you think of the festival?" The gentleman turned, surprise flickering across his face. "It's quite impressive," he admitted, a hint of hesitation in his voice. "I never expected to see so many people come together like this." "It's about celebrating our community," Harold replied. "Everyone has something to contribute, and we're all richer for it." The gentleman nodded, and for a moment, there was a silence filled with unspoken understanding. "I see what you're trying to do here, Harold. It's commendable. I may not have agreed with all the changes, but I can appreciate the community spirit." Harold felt a surge of hope at the man's words. "Thank you for giving us a chance. Change can be difficult, but it's also essential for growth. I'm glad to have you here today." New relationships. As the day wore on, Harold continued to connect with patrons, both old and new. He shared stories of the restaurant's journey, highlighting the importance of inclusivity and the joy of community. The festival became a catalyst for conversations as people exchanged ideas and experiences, reinforcing the bonds that tied them together. As the sun began to set, Casting a warm glow over the festivities, Harold gathered everyone for a closing speech. Standing before the crowd, he felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "Thank you all for being here today," he called out, his voice ringing with sincerity. "Today is a celebration of our community, the people, the culture, and the connections we've built. Let's continue this journey together and make La Maison Elegante a place where everyone feels welcome and valued." The crowd erupted in applause, and Harold felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This was more than just a restaurant. It was a home for the community, a legacy he had never imagined he would create. A new path. In the weeks following the festival, La Maison Elegante continued to thrive. The momentum from the event propelled Harold's vision forward, leading to a series of collaborative efforts with local businesses and community organizations. He initiated mentorship programs for aspiring chefs, showcasing their talents while providing valuable experience and exposure. Harold also recognized the importance of sustainability and began integrating eco-friendly practices into the restaurant's operations. He partnered with local farmers and producers, emphasizing farm-to-table dining while reducing the restaurant's carbon footprint. It was a win-win, benefiting both the community and the environment. As the restaurant gained recognition for its commitment to community engagement and sustainability, Harold found himself invited to speak at various events and panels. He shared his journey, encouraging other business owners to embrace change and create inclusive spaces. A legacy to inspire. One afternoon, Harold received a call from a well-known culinary school. They had heard about his efforts at La Maison Elegante and wanted to feature him in a documentary about chefs who are making a difference in their communities. Excited by the opportunity, Harold agreed, eager to share his story and the restaurant's transformation. As the filming approached, Harold spent time reflecting on the impact he had made, not just in the restaurant, but in the lives of those around him. He realized that his journey had become a source of inspiration for many, proving that change was possible even in the most unlikely circumstances. On the day of filming, the crew arrived at La Maison Elegante, capturing the energy and vibrancy that had become synonymous with the restaurant. As Harold spoke about his vision and the journey he had undertaken, he felt a sense of purpose swell within him. "I've learned that it's not enough to simply serve food," he said passionately. "We have a responsibility to create spaces where everyone feels they belong. Food is a universal language, and through it, we can build bridges and foster understanding." A moment of reflection. As the documentary crew wrapped up, Harold stood outside the restaurant, taking a moment to breathe in the sights and sounds around him. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow on the bustling street, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey he had undertaken. He reflected on the lessons learned about humility, acceptance, and the power of community. La Maison Elegante had become more than a restaurant. It was a symbol of hope, transformation, and unity. As he walked back inside, he was greeted by familiar faces: Marcus, Olivia, and the rest of the staff. Together, they had built something remarkable, and Harold knew that the legacy of change would continue to grow. A celebration of community. That evening, Harold hosted a special dinner to celebrate the restaurant's achievements and the impact it had made in the community. He invited everyone who had played a part in the journey, from chefs to patrons, artists to volunteers. As the guests arrived, laughter and chatter filled the air, creating an atmosphere of joy and camaraderie. Harold felt a sense of pride as he watched people from different backgrounds come together, united by a shared love of food and culture. As dinner began, Harold took a moment to address the gathering. "Tonight, we celebrate not just the success of La Maison Elegante, but the incredible community we've built together. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Your support has made all the difference." The crowd erupted in applause, and Harold felt a warmth spread through him. It was a night to remember, a celebration of connection, love, and the power of inclusivity. Looking forward, as the evening came to a close, Harold stood on the restaurant's balcony, overlooking the bustling street below. He felt a sense of peace, knowing that La Maison Elegante would continue to evolve and grow. The journey had been challenging, but the rewards had far surpassed his expectations. In that moment, he made a silent promise to himself to remain committed to the values of inclusivity and community engagement, ensuring that the restaurant would always be a place where everyone felt welcome. With a heart full of gratitude and hope, Harold turned back to the lively gathering inside. He knew that this was just the beginning of a legacy of change, acceptance, and the belief that, through food and community, they could create a brighter future for all.